Hi students, um, we are going to speak on the aesthetic movement. So, the origins of the aesthetic movement, just a brief survey. So, um, in the middle of the 19th century, John Ruskin protested against the indifference of the materialistic Victorian society to art and the beautiful. Ruskin worshipped beauty, but also insisted on the idea that a work of art is an expression of the spirit. Well, first of all, who was John Ruskin? John Ruskin was a philosopher, an artist belonging to the Victorian age. Ruskin supported the Pre-Raphaelites, a group of artists and men of letters who rejected academic art in favor of the spontaneity and spirituality of Italian painters before Raphael. They adopted sentimental archaisms and a tone of evangelical mysticism, but soon fell into sensuousness and the cult of the detail. Another important philosopher and artist of this period was Swinburne. Swinburne was greatly influenced by French writers and artists like Théophile Gautier. And thanks to Swinburne, we have the so-called art for art's sake. What is art for art's sake? Art for art's sake was a saying which disregarded morality and believed in the sovereignty of beauty. Another important writer of the age, but a French writer who had great influence on the English aesthetic movement, was Charles Baudelaire. Charles Baudelaire was the author of Les Fleurs du Mal, where he created analogies between colors, sounds, and perfumes, so that the symbolist movement found source in him. Another important, we can say, character of this age was, in England, was Walter Pater. Walter Pater is regarded as a sort of high priest of the aesthetic movement. The conclusion of his studies in the history of the Renaissance is that the secret of happiness is the absorption of beauty to burn always with a hard gem-like flame to maintain ecstasy. This cult of deep and noble emotions in life meant as a work of art and rendered him as a sort of ascetic hedonist. Pater was a historical relativist, and he rejected established doctrines, theories, in the conviction that life is fleeting and elusive. The only reality, according to Pater, is that of impressions and sensations. So no portion of experience should be sacrificed in this passionate search after sensation. And the finest sensations are to be found in art. He maintained that in art and in music, form and matter cannot be distinguished. They are a whole. So, all this was a sort of reaction to the repression of instincts which had been imposed by the Victorian society. The principle that art has no moral implications was revolt against the heavy moral standards of the Victorian, overpowering public opinion. In this world, we find Oscar Wilde, who is one of the most important writers of the aesthetic movement and the embodiment of all theories of the aesthetic movement. Do you know that the aesthetic movement had a review? This review was called the Yellow Book, and it lasted from 1894 to 1897. Unfortunately, after the great scandal of Oscar Wilde, the aesthetic movement started failing. And we can say that it was not a real failure, because it was a source of eclipse, because decadence and symbolism were destined to mark the 20th century search for new forms of expressions known as modernism.